Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Progressive Overload podcast. Have you ever thought about strengthening multiple areas of your life at the same time? Then you've come to the right place. Our goal is to help you identify ways that you might need a progressive overload to break through those plateaus and keep you growing.
Hey, what's up, Progressive Overload fam? Glad to be back in studio. What is this now, 5.0?
6.0.
6.0?
Mobile studio setup.
It is the Progressive Overload Roadshow.
There you go.
What's up? There we go. Ronin style, striking and grappling.
Shout out to our host. We are glad to be here.
Thanks for having us today, Tyson.
Yeah, glad we
in
got to be here.
your home dojo.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
dojo.
Yeah, I guess this would technically be 2.5, right? Because we did
5.2.
Well, I just mean
No.
we're back to
2.5.
original.
Oh, right.
I guess this would be 3.
Because we're in your gym, but not in the closet.
Correct.
We're in, what do you call this room?
Yeah, three and a
is the
half.
striking
Three and a
room.
The
half.
striking room. We're in the striking room.
3.5, yeah.
3 and a quarter?
Something like that.
Somewhere in there.
One of the 8 areas that we've recorded
One of the plethora of places that we have at our disposal.
So does the striking room intimidate you, Joe?
A little bit. I'm scared of these heavy bags.
These punching bags.
You keep kicking them, and it scares me.
You're not scared of the heavy bags. You're scared of the sound it makes when Tyson hits them.
It's so loud, and I just can't imagine that being somebody's ribs.
Yeah.
Or what you do just does not make any sense to me.
I asked you over and over, just come to
come
the
one time.
class.
It's not bad.
Kicked like that?
No, I'll teach you how to block it and defend it and do it to others.
Then if you mess up the block, that's your fault.
No thanks, man. No thanks.
Dustin,
Not about it.
Dustin, what you been up to, man? It's been a while since we've seen you.
Dude, life's crazy, man.
Yes, sir.
It's a whole lot of studying right now, getting ready for a good old summer break.
Yeah.
You know, I think by the time this episode releases, I'll kind of basically be in summer break. So my schedule will look a whole lot different. I'm kind of ready for that, ready for kind of a different level of norm. And so, but no, things have been good. Things have been really good. Continuing to crush it in the gym.
Yeah.
The latest workout plan that I'm following, thanks to Joe's guidance.
Josepher.
It's been fun, dude. It's been a good workout program. It has been fun.
I have not felt a set of workouts hit this heavily.
Mm-hmm. So much volume.
Yeah, there has been. And I had that conversation with you, Tyson, of I'm not really super experienced with volume lifting or,
Right.
Going to failure.
Yeah, going to failure.
Yeah.
Not super, and to be honest, most of it had to do with comfortability.
Yeah.
But now that I realize it's not as scary of a thing as I kind of originally maybe felt it out to be, I'm enjoying it.
The newest thing to this program is the intraset weighted stretching.
I hate you.
You were telling me about this.
I hate
Dude,
this so much.
It's such a cool bodybuilding technique that has been done for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never messed with it.
Yeah, so you work muscle to failure, and this is very advanced. You don't want to do it like as a beginner.
Oh, beyond my level then.
Yeah. No, no. I'm not telling you, but people listening, don't just go and do this automatically. You take a muscle to failure, like we do a barbell squat with just like 40 to 50% of your max, and you do it to failure. Ends up being somewhere between like 15 and 30 reps.
Right.
And then you go straight into like a deep quad stretch, and you hold it for 60 to in the phase I'm in. Yes, and just it burns.
Just boiling the muscle.
I'm in phase 3, and I'm holding that stretch for 120 seconds.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
you
don't feel the dome's delayed onset muscle soreness. I've never felt it like this as much.
Really?
Yes,
it's crazy.
Absolutely.
But I love it.
It's kind of rewarding being sore, though, to me.
It is.
It is.
You know,
I don't know about you. This doing that, and I don't know that I would accredit it fully to the stretching intersets, but I have seen strength gain like I have not seen before.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, I mean, I remember it was a fun day, but I remember setting up for squat and looking at you in the face and going, dude, I don't know that I'll be able to do what I did last week. And I did, how many? 38 reps of squatting 135.
Yeah, that's
before my legs were like, yeah, we're done.
Done. And then you go straight into the stretch.
And then I went straight into the stretch, and I was like, I can't stand you right now.
See, and
I can't stand period right now.
I can't stand
some of our listeners want to try a program, I'm sure Joe could hook you up.
Absolutely.
With a program real similar to this.
There's the sale right there.
There might be a way to get that somehow, right?
Yeah. There is a program that maybe we offer.
Check out the Patreon account.
Bum, bum.
What are we talking about today, Tyson?
That's what I was about to ask you. We are doing digital wellness and how to use technology as a friend and not a foe.
Yes.
Technology.
I love this idea, and I'm glad that we have Dustin on for this one because he's
techno
the techno nerd.
Well,
but man, there's
I do wear the crown.
There are so many ways that technology, and specifically we'll probably start off talking about social media.
Right.
That it can damage it can cause so much damage, but there's also ways that we can use it for our good.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to be constantly evaluating how you're using it and your habits around it.
Right.
So I was looking up some stats online, and I found a big meta study done by Washington University, and I'm going to read off what some of their findings were. But they did find a direct link between social media use and mood disorders like anxiety and depression in college students. And then let's see. The increasing amounts of Facebook use among first-year college students has been associated with higher levels of loneliness. Yeah. So people just being so social online, but so antisocial in person.
Right.
And I think we just see that. Like, when's the last time you walked among a crowd or on the street somewhere in like a busy town like Dallas-Fort Worth, and every single person has their AirPods in or they're on their phone?
Totally.
Yeah, and I think like to some extent when you're looking at that stat specifically, you also have to realize that, with social media usage and with Facebook and all these things, what you see is the best foot forward from everyone else.
Totally.
It's not the everyday in between. It's the highlights.
Right.
Yeah, they're on vacation.
And I can see it from my perspective, looking at social media and seeing the social highlights that others get to experience. There could potentially be a little bit of loneliness that sets in as I go, man, like I wish I had a group to do that with. I wish I had this.
The kids call that FOMO.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
And which is a great use of words in my opinion.
I know, I love FOMO.
It is.
Because it's so true and it hits social media right on the head.
It does.
As far as,
It does.
And so I've definitely found myself like I just recently like got my first set of AirPods, and I'm trying so hard not to be that guy that's just constantly has them in just because it's so handy. I know.
I haven't seen it though.
It's so
calling
this
them out.
Definitely be talking to myself during this episode. And especially like as for this podcast, we've been doing a lot of social media stuff, and that's how I have to grow the podcast.
That's great.
Especially, I mean, my friends and family, they can listen, but I'm never going to grow if I don't reach people outside of that.
And we're thankful for that, by the way.
Absolutely.
Shout out to you. You do a killer job with all that.
Well, thanks, man. And the word of mouth works awesome, so keep doing that. Sure. But it's kind of a necessary evil, if you will.
Yeah.
But what are some of the best ways that y'all have found that you have been able to manage your social media use?
I think, unless Tyson has something here.
Oh, for me, I'm not a big social media guy.
Yeah, you're not.
To begin with.
Which is a good thing.
Have social media?
Well, I've got a business social Instagram for the Ronin style, and I've got a personal Instagram that I do use to promote my fighters, my fighting. And here's just to throw a little positive in there about social media, though. It's a handy tool with looking up techniques to teach kids, to teach different games for my martial arts classes.
100%.
Different ways to teach the same technique, perspectives. There's some really good stuff in there. So it's not all bad.
No, not at all.
But as far as mitigating my use, I've just consciously decided to not have a Facebook. To only have an Instagram for specific uses. It's a tool, and I don't use it. I don't let it become attached to my hip where I'm constantly having to pull it out. I got to check it out. What's like the notifications? I don't get notifications if I get
that's good.
And if I get a message,
that's really good.
I won't know until like 3 or 4 days where I finally check my Instagram.
Right. Yeah, they've done some studies on that red little notification, I think,
the
that you get.
badge.
Yeah, the badge that you get. they've done studies that like there's a legit dopamine hit whenever you see those little badges, those notification badges.
Unless the number's too high.
Yeah, and then it's stressful. I hate when I see people with like 7,000 emails on their phone. I'm like, delete that crap.
Yeah.
No, but you get addicted to those notifications, and I've felt this myself. Like especially recently, my Instagram has finally gotten some momentum, and I've gained a lot of followers recently. And man, it's so addicting opening up and seeing, oh man, you have like 32 new followers, and like, oh my gosh, here we go. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
And I find myself every 10 minutes pulling out my phone to check, all right, do I have any new followers?
See, and I guess I fall into that too a little bit. I do a little social media work working with a clothing brand that I'm kind of affiliated with, and kind of on break by using social media now.
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, took a break because of just mentality.
Yeah.
Right? Like I started to become not a blessing or privilege that I was able to do, but it became a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up cutting it. But in that use, like I find myself similar to what you were saying. When I make a new post, for probably the next couple of hours, every 10 minutes I'll check.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see who's reacted,
right.
who's seen,
right.
who's liked, who's shared comments, react with people, like things like that. And there's definitely like you can feel the dopamine. If you pay attention to it, you can feel it.
What do y'all think that is? Y'all think that's just like a longing to belong to something, or just a longing to have people pay attention to you? Like what is, there's something to that.
Yeah. It's the attention, along with, a lot of times people can put too much value in it, and they get sense of accomplishment. They get some people put their identity into it, so it's just affirming.
Yeah, constantly.
They're like, okay, it gives them affirmation, that's a huge one. People are constantly looking for affirmation.
It's the affirmation of success.
Yeah.
Right. When you see that, it feels like you've made it. It feels like it's done well.
When in reality, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. In reality, it's insignificant.
Empty. Yeah.
Sure.
As for like managing the use and keeping yourself in check with it, I utilize screen time on my phone. I have an iPhone, and it has the ability just to log basically all use, right? And so I do a mix of two things. Number one, I set limits to 90% of my apps. I have it at a certain point at night, outside of certain allowed contacts or notifications that would be considered emergencies or potential emergencies. Everything else is silenced until the morning.
Right.
And that toggles on automatically at a given point in the night, and it toggles off automatically at a given point in the morning. I have it geographically set up to pick up when I'm at work. And whenever I pull into the parking lot at work, it disables those apps.
That's cool.
It puts it into what it calls work mode.
Right.
Along with all that, now granted, there is ways to re-enable those apps even if it's in those modes. So it's not like it's a fix-all. It definitely takes discipline and takes a little self-work to do it.
Right.
But along with that, it also gives you a once-a-week notification of how much screen time you've had, average per day in the last week.
Right.
And like when I first toggled it on, it was crazy, guys. And I would never have thought that I had spent as much time on that phone as much as I had. Yeah. Now, granted, when I really dug into it, that's like me just leaving my phone unlocked, screen on while I'm working out.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just logging workouts or whatever. It's not like I'm actively looking at it. But then I started thinking about the percentage of it that I was looking at that screen.
A good indicator for me when I can tell someone uses their phone too much is whenever they have the battery packs to help recharge their phone. Well, because I've had the same phone forever, and I'll charge it at night when I sleep, and when I go to bed, it's only on like 50% still. Like I don't know how people are burning through their battery so bad, unless it's that social media thing. They're constantly on it the whole time.
Right. What I've for me, social media as a Christian man who's married, I want to put any sort of block in my day on what kind of things that I'm looking at.
Absolutely.
As far as in like looking at scrolling through social media, seeing girls in bikinis, or the famous Instagram like butt floss pants where they're doing squats and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's so much garbage out there, and
so
you do
much
have
garbage.
to filter it.
Yes.
And I think that is a concept that applies to all social media use. And I would throw that, even like you were talking about the positive of being able to find games and things to play with your kids at your classes. Like even that stuff, to some extent, as you're looking at it, you're filtering it on whether or not it's useful. Right?
Totally.
Right.
And like to some extent there has to be a filter of quality. Is this a quality piece of content that I'm consuming?
Yeah.
Is it useful or beneficial for me to implement, or is it basically lifting me up, building me up? Or is it a hindrance?
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Here's,
I think that's kind of where I've kind of fallen in, is I'm in one of those spots of, as I'm looking through social media, sure, there's plenty of like entertainment, highlights, things that can, catch your attention, catch your eye.
Right.
But what could I be doing with that time?
Yeah.
Well, the biggest lesson that I've learned is how to understand the algorithm. Like,
Yes.
open up Instagram and look at your explore page, and that will tell you all about your algorithm, because you can make it work for you.
Yes.
If you open up your explore page and it's filled with junk, that's because you've been looking at junk. It's going to feed you things that you look at the most.
And I will add to this, if you have never done what I call curving your algorithm, definitely something you need to do. And this is shout out to any listener, like take this advice, use it as you want. If you're opening social media, and it specifically happens with men, if you start a fresh Instagram account or anything and identify yourself as a man, like you said, it's going to show you girls in bikinis and things that you don't want to see.
Right.
But because of your gender, it automatically throws those things in front of you. And it's real simple. You can click and hold on the video, and or if there's like the 3 dots in the top right, you can click on that, and there should be an option that says I'm not interested or do not display, things like that.
Right.
After a few times of you doing that, it removes that from your feed. And so you curve your algorithm to go into the vein you want it to go into. But you're reacting and actually watching things, regardless of what it is, feeds into that as well.
Yeah, it pays attention to how long you're watching every single video.
Yes.
If you watch a video from start to finish, it's going to say he likes that content. It's going to feed you more of it. So use that as a tool. Is that on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook? I know it's on Facebook.
As far as I'm aware, it's on every social media platform.
Yeah.
It exists in some fashion everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I do on Instagram all the time. Like, if I'm scrolling through and I see that page, I swipe away quickly, so it notices.
It's not even just about yourself too. Like you have to be careful with who you engage with, because to some extent, if somebody else has an algorithm and you follow them, it naturally thinks that you are similar to them.
Yeah.
Or enjoy similar things to them, and so it starts to suggest things that they would enjoy. Which may not be the case, but if you pay attention and are careful with who you engage with or actively follow, it helps with that stuff.
So if you're paying attention to, like, I think probably the older population does this the most, is they watch news story after news story of political debates or whatever's going on in the world. And it's just going to feed you so much of that crap, and all you're going to be thinking about is how fearful of the world you are. Oh, I don't know how this world got here, and like.
Well, you're so right. You and I work with elders all the time, and
that's all they think about.
That's all they think about. All they have is their algorithms based on whatever side of the news they like to follow, whether it's Fox News or CNN. But either way, either they completely hate the left or they completely hate the right. They're the devils and everything. And it's just like, guys, the world's really not black and white like that.
Right. It's true.
But they get in these echo chambers where it's the same ideas getting thrown at them all day long.
Yep. That's Mr. Jim at the Wellness Center.
I know.
You'll never know what they did the other day.
Yeah.
He told me that today, actually.
I know, every
Fox
single day
News,
he tells me the newest scandal or whatever.
I won't ever buy an Adidas product ever again.
Yeah. And hey, newsflash, the world's been jacked up since day one.
Yeah, totally.
There's been all of this crap going on for forever now. It's not just a new thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, and, but aside of, like, the algorithm and the content that you take in, just the simple use of it can affect really fitness as a whole for you.
Yeah.
And I would say it would affect the foundational building blocks of fitness in more ways than we realize.
That's a good point. Yeah. I like going there. Like how, like, this is a whole new topic of wellness. You know, when we talk about wellness, we talk about nutrition and fitness and sleep and all those different, markers of health. Digital wellness will absolutely affect all those other areas of your wellness.
Yeah. And, and just to pick off of like what you said with like nutrition, with fitness, with sleep, those are the three that I kind of instantly gravitate towards making this connection, because if you think sleep, using your phone before you go to bed at night will impact your sleep.
Right. 100%.
And using it when you first get up will affect your day moving forward.
Yeah.
And it almost sets the tone in a place it doesn't need to be.
Sure.
I'll wake up in the morning and open my phone to see what kind of notifications I got overnight on the Instagram,
Oh, really?
How many followers did I get overnight? Always these like India followers.
I've gotten to the point where I'll set up an audiobook, literally.
Yeah.
And when I wake up, I'll unlock my phone, I'll hit play and turn the light on in my room and go about like starting my morning while I'm listening to something.
Yeah.
And it's giving me that stimulation of there's something, but I'm not sitting there like staring at a screen and it's productive.
Right.
And that's just sleep though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you get into the fitness side of things. And you've made this statement before. There's so many influencers out there who try and put forth these videos, and in some ways they're flashy, or they try and get your attention because they're trying to sell you something.
Right.
And in reality, the content or the quality of what they're putting out there isn't the best.
Right.
Or it's something where that's what they have to offer. You shouldn't really listen to it, right? There's another side that you should hear.
Yeah.
And I think that's where filtering things comes in. I don't know how you guys interact with, I know you don't use social media a whole lot, but if you see those like, workout tip videos. I sent you a form video yesterday of a guy doing bench press, and it was awful.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, the bad thing is people are entertained by this.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody's going to get massively hurt trying to replicate this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, look at how your habits when you're eating around your phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you are eating while you're sitting there scrolling, you are less mindful of the food you're putting in your mouth. You're less mindful of the signals your body will try to send you. We've talked about this before. You can sit there and mindlessly eat, and before you know it, you've overeaten because you've been distracted the whole time. And then, I mean, you got one of my favorite things, we talked about sleep is sleeping with your phone either out of the room or on the other side of the room.
Yes.
There's a lot of wellness people, and I'm not sure I've bought into this or not, but they've talked about the EMF waves their phone puts out. They try to undigitalize their room.
There's some tinfoil hat people out there. They'll ground their bed. Have you seen that? Or they'll put like tinfoil and copper all the way around their mattress so that they're grounded.
They're grounded. Yeah, no, I don't.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't.
But I mean, look at especially if you're someone who in the past or even still struggles with looking at things you shouldn't look at, especially when you're in the bed, and it leads to different type of things. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, get the phone out of your room. Don't go into your room with your phone in your near you.
Yeah, and to some extent, would you say that if you are struggling in some ways like that, or even let's just broaden it, if you're struggling with phone usage in general, to have it that accessible in bed is setting yourself up for failure?
In so many different ways. Yeah. I mean, like you said a while ago, it's going to jack with your sleep, or you'll lay down for bedtime and then you'll sit there and scroll for another 45 minutes. Little before you know it, you've lost 45 minutes of sleep.
Just one last check.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easier for me, I guess. I just, well, the way my mind works is I'm constantly weary of people selling me stuff. And Joe knows this. Sure. I'm a cheapskate.
Yeah.
So like, whenever I'm constantly scrolling, all you see is buy my product, buy this T-shirt because I wear this T-shirt. It irritates me to the point where I don't want to watch it at all. And I'm definitely not buying the product.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot.
Another question for you. When it comes to using your phone while eating, have you ever noticed, and this may just be a me thing, if I'm actively scrolling while I'm eating or taking in social media content in general, whatever, not only do I end up overeating, like you said, because I'm not conscious of how much I'm eating and, oh, man, I'm full.
Right.
But that full feeling doesn't last as long. It's almost like I'm not satisfied. Yeah. I want more.
It's definitely possible, yeah. I can see that.
I've Pavloved myself because I watch chess when I eat. So now whenever my YouTube algorithm will bring up chess videos, I'll get hungry. I've completely Pavloved myself where like if I sit down and I watch a chess video, I've totally like man, I'm kind of hungry right now. It's weird.
I could use some chips.
Yeah.
You know, like
that's funny. Yeah.
But yeah, and I think like that's a perfect example of it. But I think to some extent, if we're constantly taking that stuff in, there has to be a line that we draw, first of all. Yeah. But if we're constantly taking in those various forms of content, if we're constantly taking in videos, pictures, all these things while we're eating, we become oblivious to kind of the scenario that we're in. And so that's why we overeat.
Yeah.
But we have a deep craving for more. And maybe I'm associating in reverse here, right? Like you see the chess videos and think food.
Yeah.
Maybe I like see that food and I'm thinking of like the content.
Well, one difference too though is I'm sitting down having a meal and I've got a plate, and when the plate's empty, I'm done eating.
True.
But if like you said, bag of chips where there's almost limitless supply, or you know, like I can't. I've already fell down that trap before. I don't snack. I eat my meal and I'm done.
That's it. Yeah, that's probably safe.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What would y'all? So I think we would be mistaken if we did not talk about, as we talk about technology and phone use, of the pornographic pandemic out there. And I heard on a podcast this morning actually that the average kid discovers pornography at 8 years old.
Yeah, I believe that.
And that just scares the crap out of me. Yeah, if it's that late, exactly.
At this point.
You think about it. You know, today we don't have home phones. So if you want to have your kid be able to reach you during the day, they have a cell phone. And all they are just these computers.
They're computers in their pockets.
And they have free access to everything that you can think of.
And it's
free
scary.
Information.
I mean, and there are so many ways that pornography can damage a kid, or I mean anybody. And you have to be careful around that. Like I've had apps on my phone for the longest time that I use right now called Accountable to You. It's just one of those ones that's going to monitor anything that happens, and I have select friends and mentors that if something pops up that sounds sketchy, it'll send it right over to them. It'll screenshot it, send it right to them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of these things.
And then there's another one, the most popular one's probably called Covenant Eyes. It does the same thing.
I got friends that use that. It's a very real thing.
It's absolutely a real thing. You know, I one day I'll have to go into depth about my my journey through pornography. It was something that was introduced to me at probably second or third grade. I mean, and that was before cell phone usages. Yeah. And it was a battle through college for me, and and I was married through college, and so it caused so many marital problems and stuff like that. And luckily, I've been free for a long time now, and it's been a game changer for myself and my own intimacy with my wife, and then our relationship together too. And so one day I'll go into depth of that, but that's become a big part of my story. And I'm usually pretty careful about who I talk to about, but now hundreds of you will know, but that's okay.
It's whatever, man. Yeah. It's such a taboo thing, right? Meanwhile, no one will admit the only reason the internet's a thing is because pornography is a thing.
It's driven the internet.
Pornhub is the largest site on the internet by far.
Yeah.
By million. We think YouTube's big. We think whatever, Instagram is big.
Google. It's bigger than Google.
It's bigger than Google.
Literally.
So, sex sells. It's at the end of the day.
It's true.
So, I mean, we can all pretend like it's not this big thing and we all hush.
Right.
But I think you're pretty strong for just admitting that you had a problem with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, and I've had this conversation with friends. Like I've said, I have friends who've used Covenant Eyes for the purpose of they're in that battle. Right. And the conversation has been getting that secret out there and being willing to talk about it removes the power it holds over you.
Absolutely. I've spoken about that on the podcast a lot, and I've never actually told y'all what it was about. I've talked about those hidden secrets that you've had that nobody knows about. They are only healed whenever you confess those sins and those secrets to not only our Lord, but to friends and mentors, people that you trust, and hundreds of listeners on a podcast.
Yeah. I think,
but that's when true healing happens. Is when
I think you mentioned it last time we recorded together. Actually, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you are struggling with that and you don't have anybody to talk to, message me. I would love to help you with that and talk to you how I overcame it and how I've been healed through it and how much life changes happened since I've let go of that. And so and
like just to be clear, to throw it out there, we talk about these negatives and things that do exist, and I would say social media is akin to like a tool.
Yeah.
Right. And it depends on how we're making use of it. Right. There are certain things that a hammer is intended to do that I can't accomplish with a screwdriver. Right. And if we're trying to force fit a tool to do something outside of the purpose that it should have, that's when things get dangerous for us. And for me, I see social media as a positive thing. You guys know I'm pretty active on social media in general. Do a lot of social media management type stuff, and it's just a constant thing that's in my brain.
Right.
But definitely, like I mentioned earlier, there has to be a filter placed on those things. 100%. And you mentioned earlier dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, and the things that social media can do to affect those things. And I would say like it absolutely can affect it in a negative way. I would also say just in general, there's so much in life that can be accredited to it, like representing or showing joy, and being a way to display that. I think that's where a lot of like disciplines and stuff comes in as you're filtering through those things.
Yeah. Well, that was good. So I guess in closing, just a reminder, curb your algorithm. I love that. If you don't want to be tempted by unhealthy food, stop looking at recipes of triple-double cheeseburgers made out of pizza crust and blah, 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 blah. And look up healthy recipe ideas. Make that part of your algorithm. If you look at mine, it's going to be all sorts of recipes, all sorts of guitar stuff, and all sorts of powerlifting stuff. And that's the stuff that I get value from, and that's not stuff that's going to bring me down. And so you guys have anything else?
Nothing to add.
Not really.
Thank you all for the conversation. That was awesome.
Think you covered it really well.
Yeah. Make changes out there. Be very weary. Use that filter like we always talk about. And follow us on Instagram.
Yeah. Anti-social media, but follow us anyway.
Don't use social media unless you're following us.
Exactly. All right, everybody.
Kidding.
Tyson, Dustin, so glad to have y'all here today. And Ronan Style Striking and Grappling. We'll see y'all next week on the Progressive Overload podcast.
Much
Goodbye.
love.
Thanks for listening to the Progressive Overload podcast. We're honored to be a small part of your day. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or are interested in sponsoring our efforts, please feel free to reach out via email. Find us at progressiveoverloadpod@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.
And as always, you can help us reach the masses by sharing our podcast with your friends and family. And then check us out on Facebook and Instagram to follow our own personal journeys and get an inside look on our day-to-day lives. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.